Hey, if you're a business owner and your revenue has plummeted in the last year, maybe last couple years, you are not alone. I want to talk to you about a really real thing that I see over and over and over. Having been a business coach now for coming up to 9 years this May 2025, I've coached more than 3,500 students, and I just recently had one of my students who went from being a trainer on the gym floor to growing his online coaching business to $50,000 to $60,000 a month with over $80,000 in profits. And typically what happens is after a couple of years, people venture out on their own, and this is what this individual has done. And great guy, has been a very valued member of our community, and he decided to go try the world of ads. And he started spending like 10 grand and 15 grand on these different courses teaching you how to run ads, and he lost his shirt. So that was a massive blow to his confidence. And then this is somebody that's been to all of our events, very active, vocal member of our community, and he would have been labeled as one of the big dogs. And he decided to move on, and recently reached out and had a conversation with him. And I'm not going to reveal the entire conversation, but I think this conversation is very representative of what's happening to a lot of business owners, and they don't know what to do because there's a lot of emotion attached to having your revenue at $50,000 to $60,000 per month, and then it drops to $10,000 a month. So I just want to share some of the things that he shared with me, and I said, hey, we've got to remove you from the group, and I have a couple options, couple thoughts. And what he did was he immediately essentially took the back door, and he said, you're good to remove me from the community. And I want to kind of just dissect some of this because I think there's going to be a lot of lessons from what he shared with me and then with what I shared back. And this is an individual that I respect. He's a great, great guy. And he's younger. And again, this isn't limited to age, but what I noticed was a lot of trauma patterns and a lot of subconscious loops, negative subconscious loops that are keeping him stuck. And I'm gonna unpack these because I've done a lot of therapy myself the last 27 months. So I used to never be able to have these conversations, and I just wanna kind of share with how this went. So what he shared with me was that things have been extremely slow this year, and I'm hurting bad financially. Now, this takes a lot of courage, first of all, for somebody to admit. Somebody who's in our program, and actually through the years in our program, he made over $1 million. So he was one of our millionaires because he'd done over 50, 60K per month for many years straight. All right. And then what he's doing now to add more stability to his life is he's not doing paid in fulls. He's doing everything for MRR. So he's just trying to get a lot of people on payment plans. So he's not seeing those big spikes in revenue each month. And essentially his new front end business has been virtually non-existent. So he's living off of MRR. He's living off of old clients, okay? A lot of these clients join him, as many fitness coaches have experienced during the pandemic. People have stayed on for many years, and a lot of fitness coaches are still living off of people who joined the program many years ago, but you can't have a business living off of people who joined your program 4 or 5 years ago. Now that's pretty cool. And I'm not saying that retention isn't important. We shouldn't maximize LTV, but we can't become reliant on people renewing a 4th and a 5th time. That should just be bonus revenue, not like money that you need. We should be getting new cash in the door each month. So, he essentially told me that he's not even in the position to spend, and he dropped the amount of money just to get base level access to our community, our calls, our events. And he admitted, I know that sounds like scarcity, but we've really had to cut back a ton on expenses until I can get back on my feet, okay? Feeling a ton of embarrassment and shame lately around this, and I had my entire identity wrapped up in being one of the big dogs in our coaching program. So he, wrapped up telling me that he's been struggling a lot with depression, and he's trying to figure out who he is outside of the numbers on a screen. And first of all, let's pat this guy on the back because that takes a lot of courage to admit. Even I'm just thinking of myself. And even when I was working with Coach Bedros, and I worked with him since 2010, you know, he's seen my like revenue up and down, up and down. And I think one of the reasons I had a great coaching relationship with him because I wasn't afraid to tell him when I was struggling. Because if they don't know how you're doing, they can't actually help you. And it's funny because I told Bedros this and he said, yeah, I get this all the time. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I see people in my office for half days of consulting, and I always ask them, how much do you make? And they say what I put on social media or what I really make. Like, that's a real thing. Most of the stuff you guys see on social media where people tell you what they're making is just literally BS, all right? Because who's gonna admit that they're going backwards? So what happens is you feel like you're the only one. So I want to just kind of share with you what I wrote back to him. And I think this might relate to somebody here, and maybe you get an insight or two. Okay. So I said, I appreciate you being real with me. This is one of the most real things you've said in 5+ years. First of all, I want to remind you that this moment, this exact dip you're in, is what every high-level entrepreneur faces at some point. I've been there myself. I want to share with you guys, we used to do $500,000 to $600,000 a month USD cash collected, not in recurring, not in revenue, in actual front end cash, okay? And I don't make 500 to 600K USD. I make less than that. So I'm making less money than I made a few years ago. So I know what he's feeling, okay? To go down, all right? And for me, when did it go down? It was my separation. The year that I separated, like I was demoralized. I felt like I still am working through this. I still feel like a failure. And it's bleeding into decisions that I'm making because I don't feel like I deserve success because I've created this identity of being a failure. I failed at my marriage, but I'm not a failure, but it's this identity that's trying to take a hold of me. And I've had to battle through this with therapy and really understanding these subconscious loops that are keeping me stuck. So I can relate to him. And, you know, not only did my revenue take a major backseat, but I lost the hopes and dreams of going to another country with my kids and of living in this beautiful home that we built and fulfilling on this dream that I publicized on social media for since March of 2021 that I'm leaving the country, I'm getting a visa. So I know what he's feeling, okay? I sympathize and I empathize because I've been there. I more so empathize because I've actually walked in his shoes at a different scale. So what I said is, this is where you're at. Dude, you know how to make money. Like, this guy knows how to make money. He's been making 50 to 60 grand a month for years. And I said, I'd ask you to consider, is it wiser to walk away or do you need to lean in? Okay. Now, my whole philosophy is not to make somebody make the decision, right? I kind of know when at a bit of pressure, but like, I want you to notice how detached I am from like what he does, because he needs to make this choice. I don't want to pressure him, guilt him, or shame him to getting back in the group. All right. I just want to give him things to consider. So this is my new style of connecting, communicating. So I said, I'd ask you to consider, is it wiser to walk away or do you need to lean in? I said, you say you're hurting financially, but you're still doing $10,000 months. With the discovery you've needed to break through, right? He's got, from this reduction in revenue, he's now got new discoveries about himself. Like, he would have never known that his identity is attached to his revenue if this hadn't happened. So in my mind, this is happening for him, not happening to him, right? And what he's learned is that who you are, not what you do, is going to get him back on track. It's who he is, not what he does, that's going to get him back on track. Because a lot of these guys that I've worked with whose revenue has dropped the last couple of years, it's because they're still relying on outdated strategies. They're still doing things that worked then, and then they get familiar and they don't evolve. They might try a thing here or try a thing that they don't personally evolve. Maybe their tactics evolve, but they don't evolve. And there's a big difference, all right? So I said, I know damn well you've paid way more for things that didn't even get you results, LOL. This isn't about money. And I was referencing the stuff that he spent money on with a bunch of guys who teach ads. And, you know, I don't think he was profitable at the start. And this is kind of like the thing that a lot of these ad agencies do. Like, they'll guarantee that you'll make money, but like what they're doing is they're just gonna basically take your hottest leads and then run like an SMS campaign to them. And then they're gonna help you make your money back like in a short window of time. And it's gonna make it look like the ads are working. It never stays the same though, because they don't actually have a real sustaining strategy. It's just like a quick arbitrage of funds from people that are ready to buy based off all your hard work that you did before they got their hands on it, and they just know how to make it look like they're you know, doing their job. But then people who, oh, I made all this money with this ad company, it doesn't last because they don't actually give you a proper strategy. All right, they don't actually build you something that is ongoing. All right, that's a side point. All right, but that's a big thing. Whenever you see somebody say, "Oh, you're, you know, guaranteed. We got this ad strategy, money back guaranteed first 30 days." Yeah, because they've got an easy way of making the money in the first 30 days, but they don't make any money afterwards. I've seen this so many times. All right, so I told them this isn't about the money, and this is what I wanted to get to. This is about the story you're telling yourself. Right? That pulling back will protect you. This is the story he's running. I need to pull back to protect myself, right? That stepping away is how you're gonna get back on your feet. You know, I gotta get back on my feet. His mindset is that I need to pull back, all right? I need to step away. But let's be real. What's really happening here is he's isolating. I said, let's be real. You're choosing to isolate. You're choosing to struggle in silence. You're choosing to self-sabotage when you actually need structure. You need connection. You need accountability and a path forward with people who won't let you fall behind. And this is the thing. He can't get the proper support because he's on his own, right? And he's got this identity that he's failing. He's not failing. He's actually evolving because he's going to become a better version of himself in the process. So what he's facing, he's not failing, he's facing friction, and that's when you either break or you break through, right? And I told him you don't have to stay a big dog, but you do have to decide, all right? Are you going to keep shrinking your circle and hoping something changes? Or are you going to let yourself be supported and rise through this season as a man, not just as a marketer? So I just want to pause right there because there was something massive there. A lot of us, we get into entrepreneurship to fill a void, right? It's typically something of some form of lack. Self-worth is a big one. Seeking identity, approval, recognition, proving yourself. It all comes from a desire to validate yourself. And so, we get ahead. We make this money, we get this identity, and then what happens is we're terrified of losing this identity, and we become embarrassed that I no longer have this identity. So we shrink and we hide, as opposed to the identity being placed on, hey, I'm somebody who never quits. I'm somebody who reaches out for help when things get tough. I'm somebody that is normal. I'm a human. I face tough times. I'm not invincible. So he's built this identity of success that's putting so much pressure on him that he doesn't want to be seen anymore. And again, I know all this because this is like literally my story. I've gone through all of this, and I said, look, brother, I'm here to help you either way. You've always been one of my favorite students, and you've contributed a ton to our group. It hasn't gone unnoticed, but if you're still the leader that I believe you are, you'll realize that you don't need less support. You need more. And this is how guys spiral out of control. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be vulnerable. Like, this is what's really going on here. This is a guy, like, he was vulnerable with me. Thank goodness we have a relationship, and he shared that with me, but that's not enough. Like, you got to go to the next step. You have to actually admit that, why are you afraid to lean in right now? Because it might not work, and then you're seen as a failure. So his identity is very looped in around what he does, and rather than who he is. And he admitted he has to figure this out. That's why I wanted to shoot this video, that I know a lot of people are trying to figure out, why is my identity still attached to my numbers, all right? And I just reassured him, so you know, I've had this convo a few times a week with a ton of our big dogs. In fact, 3 of our speakers at our next event in Toronto were all students that hit massive peaks. And I know they'd all admit to you that their businesses went backwards. And then they started working with me and we started moving them forwards. And I believe a big part of the reason that they've been able to rebuild, and not just rebuild better businesses, but they have become better versions of themselves. So they're gonna be able to protect this new level, sustain this new level, because they've actually grown and they've actually started to identify what was driving them in the first place, which is no longer a sustainable fuel source, right? And I offered him some time on my calendar just to talk, you know. This is the stuff that really fires me up now. As you could hear, like, this conversation is not tactical. It wasn't about, oh, send me the funnel. Let me see the SMS flow. Hey, let me see the ad creative. Oh, like what? This has nothing to do with it. This is a smart guy. He knows how to make money. He can understand strategy and tactics. That is not the issue. The issue is that he's created a story that he's a failure. And if you're a failure, you need to run and hide and fix it yourself. When really the new story should be is like, no, I'm just failing at this specific thing and I'm human and I need to get help. And my identity is not what's happening to me, it's in how I respond. And you just gotta shift a few things, really simple stuff. So I wanted to share this with you because if your business has grown, and I know a lot of people whose businesses grew massively during the pandemic, and they were kind of just riding that wave even the last year or two. And you know, many people have gone on and continue to grow, but I've seen a lot of people go completely backwards. And they're trying to figure out, like, how do I come out of this? And they're looking externally. They're looking at all this stuff out there of who can come save them, and nobody can come save them. Nobody will save you. Only you can save yourself by doing this work, or else it will not get better, it will get worse. So I hope this is helpful for somebody watching. And again, if you can resonate with, I used to be here, now I'm here, hey, that's normal. Like, even professional football teams are up one season, then can be down in the next season. Professional basketball teams, hockey teams, they win the Stanley Cup, they win the NBA playoffs. The next season, next couple of seasons, they're in the toilet, they're having a rough go. There's tons of examples of that. So you just have to understand, entrepreneurship is much like a game, and there can be highs and there can be lows, and we need to start to learn how to detach our identity from this game. If you don't, you can end up putting yourself in a dark hole, suffer in silence, and it's really hard to come out. So hopefully, let's pray for this individual. Hopefully he comes out, and I'm sure he will. And we'll just ask for help. The take home is ask for help. Ask for help. Somebody's calling me. I'm gonna wrap up this video. If this was helpful for you, share this video, and let me know if you got any questions. If I can serve you, hit me up on Instagram. I put a brand new video in the links below if you wanna learn about our 5-step process on how to scale to 10 to 30K per month in profits. I think it might be helpful for you, and we'll talk to you soon. Ciao, ciao.